Good evening, everyone. I now call the Winton Woods Board of Education regular meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. on Monday, January 25th, 2016. I'd like to ask everyone to please silence or turn off your cell phones or any electronic devices that you have, and please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Birdie?
Here.
Dr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Here.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Miranda?
Present. Our first item on the agenda this evening is our district honors, recognitions, gifts, and introductions. Mr. Superintendent, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam President and Board. With this packed house, I think something must have gone out that I was going to sing a few songs or something. Not going to happen. All right. So our first recipient, the Kiwanis representative. Before we present this award, I would like for you to kind of tell us why you guys have sponsored so many children.
Well, I started out in Winton Woods as a teacher many years ago. So I have a big investment in the youth in our district, and in Kiwanis, I'm relatively new to Kiwanis. I'm president now, but relatively new, but they have been working for many years to help further the well-being of children in this area, not only Winton Woods, but Finneytown and other areas. So it's just something that we believe in, and we like to help these young people on their path down the road.
Right, thank you. So our first recipient is the Kiwanis Characters Key for Trustworthiness, Willabelle Serrano. Now this has to be a very special situation because the principal wrote something about Willabelle. Willabelle Serrano is a prime example of a superior student that exhibits trustworthiness by showing a high level of responsibility and integrity. Whatever Willabelle is asked to do, the follow-through is guaranteed. He's the type of student that any teacher would find helpful. Teachers have confidence that he will do what is asked with no extra monitoring. Willabelle is more than just trustworthy. He's humble, quiet, and never seeks extra attention. He may even be blushing at this very moment. He is a great student who is ready for life's next chapter, high school. Seeing how Willabelle has grown academically and in character has been delightful for his teachers. As with most middle school students, Willabelle started his 7th grade year with more questions than answers, not even knowing his capabilities. He's the type of resilient student who will work steady and is not fearful to try a different strategy. His positive attitude and determination to succeed has helped him maintain his grades, to stay on the honor roll each quarter as a 7th and 8th grade student, and he has been recognized for Student of the Month awards. Willabelle exhibits a balance between his school duties and his personal time. He participates in our school's after-school soccer club and would like to continue soccer and baseball when he starts his high school career. He has a great attitude, gives a lot of confidence that he will be successful in college and the career of his choice. So through this, he has said, it's too early to tell which college or university we'd like to go to. He wants to expand his education by taking college courses to become an engineer. Thank you, Willabelle, for displaying trustworthiness. You're the type of student that teachers love to see in their classroom. Congratulations on all your accomplishments and good luck on your future endeavors.
This character award is being presented for trustworthiness, and it's within the character of an individual as the welfare of the nation. It is character that enables the individual to survive, to endure, and to transcend the negative. Your values reflect your commitment to be a student of good character to your peers, your teachers, your parents, and your community. So I would like to present this to Willabelle Serrano, and along with this, there's a little monetary award that goes with it.
Okay, before we finish the next picture, he brought someone with him. Come on up for a family picture. Yes. Family time, quickly. Fantastic. You want some? You sure? All right, that's that shyness coming out. All right, very good. Our next award, which is the Gold Star, Student of the Month, for Geraldine Smith. I don't know what it is about these awards, but it seems like it's a Smith every month. Geraldine Smith has been a high-achieving student for quite some time. She's been actively involved in her academics and has challenged herself by taking honors and now beginning this year some AP classes as well. Not only is she academically talented, she is also a role model to our students and staff. She is currently participating in the Mercy Hospital Medical Explorers program with several students from varying districts. I'm very pleased to honor her as Student of the Month. She will be an asset to anything she pursues. Mrs. Christina Jeranek. Thank you.
This Gold Star Achievement Award is being presented to Geraldine Smith in special recognition of her selection as Gold Star Kiwanis Student of the Month, January, at Winton Woods High School, for her outstanding academic achievement, enthusiasm, and commitment to service in the community and her school district. And as with the other one, there is also a Gold Star Award that goes along with this.
Fantastic. Family time. How you doing, sir? Thank you. Oh. All right.
She's not even looking at that podium.
Somebody's been
She's smart.
watching
She's
its
gonna see
TV
it.
shows.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. This next guy is my hero. Mr. Jeremy Day, Principal, Intermediate Building. The Ohio Strings Association Administrator of the Year. Mr. Jeremy Day, Principal, Winton Woods Intermediate School, congratulations. You were chosen to receive the award for the year 2015-16. You'll be recognized at the Ohio String Teachers Association at the Cincinnati Convention Center on January 28th. Mr. Day, thank you. He didn't bring his instrument, but Mr. Day can play any string instrument that you bring to him. He's just that talented. Yes, sir. Of course you do. Yes, sir.
That last comment was really a lie. I can play whatever you want. It just won't sound very good. No, I just want to thank everybody for the award. I mean, it's really, really nice. I really wasn't expecting any of this at all. I thought it was a good idea in the summer, and then it turned out to be a really, really big deal. So, well, there's a few people in the room that know how hectic a principal's life is, I guess, And then my mom's in the back. She knows for sure because she was married to one. And then Ms. Lumpkin-Mucha here, my assistant principal. There's a few other principals that are former principals. So they know how hectic my schedule is. So I went to Mr. Morales earlier in the year, and I kind of brought this up to him. I was like, well, what do you think if I did this? And he kind of looked at me, and he said, fine. I mean, I think he was just being polite. I mean, I really didn't think he was really thinking that I was going to do it, Mrs. Bill. I don't know. Just with my time schedule. But it's worked out pretty well. I've made most every lesson. I've had a couple things I've had to do that I couldn't make it. It's really been a cool experience, though. It's hard, and that's I guess in a way that's what I really like about it. It's very, very difficult. I've never been a part of anything like this at all. I was always in athletics when I was younger, So having something like this is it's very different for me. But that was part of the reason. I wanted to make sure the kids.
What's your instrument?
It's viola. Viola, yeah, and I've learned a lot about it. The viola's a lot different than the violin, which most people don't know either. So I learned that too. There's a lot of stuff I've learned the whole way through here, but it's been very, very difficult, but a lot of fun. I think it's important that the kids understand that the adults don't know it all, and that's something the kids don't really usually realize. I don't think. But I wanted to show them that you could kind of pick it up however you are, and I may not be perfect at it. I may not be excellent later on, but I'm going to get as good as I can, and I think that's the main thing. So,
Mr. Day can tell you that his new friends are all 5th and 6th graders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
But I'm not any taller than any of them, which is the sad thing. So there you go. So thank you very much.
Special recognition, Mrs. Brandy McCaster. Is she here? Thank you. I'm going to say a little bit about you, then we'll let you. All right. So the Winton Woods Board of Education expresses its deep appreciation to Mrs. McCaster, who has provided Christmas dinner, toys, and necessities for 2 needy families at Winton Woods Primary South School, as well as new uniforms for 2 other students. These are the kind of parents that we're talking about. When they see the need, they step up to the plate. And I know Ms. McCaster didn't want to be recognized, but you can blame your principal. She told us all about you because we believe that creates a strong community. So thank you for everything that you do. So, if you will.
Thank you, Mrs. Wallace. It's just a blessing to be able to be a blessing and pay it forward. We weren't looking for any special recognition at all, but this is something that my husband and I have done for the last 6 years. We usually kind of do an outreach to foster kids and things like that, but now that our son is in kindergarten and is a part of this family for this school, we wanted to help out his friends and the people that were at his school. So thank you.
Bravo. Thank you. You bring family with you?
My husband, Andre.
Andre, don't hide from us. Where's Andre? Andre, let someone hurl that purse, sir. There you go. Thank you very much. Our next Spirit Award is the Community Spirit Award. And this award goes to a young man who I met 2.5 years ago. And I asked him the question, why do you continue to be involved? And so I'm going to read a little bit about him, and you will understand why he has the passion for what he does. So, Dr. Weirs, please come up. So here is his why I'm involved. There was a time when Winton Woods City School was a destination district. Student enrollment rose continuously every year since the district's founding in 1939 to 8,310 in 1973. The first occasion when residents were asked to pass a bond issue was 1951, and it passed. All the bond issues and levies that followed were passed every time that were on the ballot until March 1981. When the district suffered its first ballot loss, from that time, November 2009, when the last operating levy was passed, there were 14 failures and 4 passed levies. During all the years since 1973, the district had declining enrollment until apparently bottoming out at 3,500 students 2 years ago. The district had become a disinvestment district instead of a destination district. These are Ms. Dr. Weir's words. I believe the district can rise again, but also believe if it's meant to be, it's up to me and others who share this belief to help it again. There is another driver behind this that includes but goes beyond the special interests of students, parents, teachers, principals, and administrators, and school board members. The driver is the population of the communities of which the district is composed. I have in mind those who have no direct connection to the district. These are empty nesters, retired people, business owners, anyone who owns property in the district and whose quality of life is affected by the reputation and achievement of the schools. I believe there is a mutually interdependent linkage between investment in schools and in the communities. It needs a different level of cooperation between the two that is found when schools and municipalities seek themselves apart from one another like silos. Dr. Brandon Weirs.
Can I see if my colleagues are here that have helped me earn this award?
Absolutely.
If they are, I'm afraid
Dr.
they might
Wharton,
be outside.
Mr. Henderson.
Yeah, Mr. Horton and, no, okay, well, let's go ahead. All right. Oh, thank you. All right. Thank you. I'd like to just follow up with
Yes, sir.
some words of thanks and gratitude for an award of this kind. Has a lot of people on a team that's needed in order to get to a place like this, and I really appreciate it that the board has seen it in their hearts to grant this award, because it is a deep interest of mine. And I have to say thanks to Mr. Smith, who has been very helpful. Mr. Seymour is another one that has been very helpful in achieving community impact through the organization that I and Chip Henderson and George Horton formed. We called ourselves the Citizens Committee, or Concerned Citizens for Improved Schools. But Steve Denny, Dr. Terry Holden, Kevin Jones, Mrs. Jeanette Jordan, and Gina Burnett, all of the school system have been also very helpful. But then not only that, there have been 3 people recently identified for this award who've also shown me the path. One is Mrs. Linda McIntyre, another is Mrs. Kim Burns, and another one is Mr. Tim Cleary. who's in the audience, and I want to say thanks directly for him. And finally, there are those two others of my colleagues and one other person who has been supportive through all of this, and it is, in addition to Chip Henderson and George Warden, my life partner, Patty Weirs.
Hey, absolutely.
Thank you.
Hold it. Your life partner.
I wasn't sure you would allow that my real family could be here with me too.
Who else?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure I should have been here in the first place. But thank you again. I'm going to say good night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Have a good evening.
All right, my director for teaching and learning is going to come up to the podium. So we're going to recognize our Chinese international students. Since Dr. Holden has been to China like 15 times, she's going to actually call their names.
Can I ask them to come in so that I'm also going to recognize host families?
Yes.
So if they can just come on, children. Just go over there. Yeah, there you go. Go all the way over. Is there anybody else out there?
Oh, yes.
Host families, everybody.
Yeah, right.
I have no idea. You've got some. Okay, students. So when I call your name, come up by Mrs. Miranda, and host families, you can just stand or wave, or if you can move and feel the need to accompany the students, please do so.
Hold it. You don't need a list, do you?
Okay. So I'll do my best here. Hailu Zero Sai, who is with Alodi Holidays, host family. So I'm embedding their English name in the middle. So Chen Yang Tom D, host family, Jessica Fujikawa. Yilian Elaine Gu, host family, William and Christina Thomas. Hansho Shou Hua, host family, Otis Jones. Lee Isaac G, host family, Shelley Hurd. Chien Yi Jenny Lee, host family, Vashana Hughes. Howen Brian Lee, host family, Kelly Clark. Ruchi Ricky Lee, host family, Leslie Haxby McNeil. Tenge Candy Lee, host family, Mary Wentz. Yang Yang Crystal Liang, host family, Jamel Bettis. There we go. Sija Sky Lau, host family, Molly Thompson. Xiaowen Jax Lu, host family Xian Ying Wang. Ying Che Tony Lu, host family Beth Wiggins. Fan Li Timber Mong, host family Michelle Allen. Jertao Jerry Ni, host family Chris Tape. Bing Chen Bobby Pan, host family David Fowler. Hui Zhu Emma Pan, host family Bill and Marlene Spielman. Bingshen Sabrina Su, host family Danielle Etsajenet Gebra Mariam. Yuji Francis Su, host family Mary Wentz. Don Lee Cindy Sun, host family Greg and Laura Snow. Suyuan Tony Tong, host family Otis Jones. Guan Henry Wong, host family Denise Jarnigan Holt. Hanshin Arthur Wong, host family Xian Ying Wang. Sinyu Sheena Wong, host family Rhonda Hobbs. Yijan Jesse Wong, host family Chris Tape. Wenjun Constance Wu, host family Daniel Ray. Fangri Stephen Shi, host family Donald Shuddy. Jinxian Jesse Shi, host family Lim Ki Heng. Zhenwei Joy Shi, host family Rhonda Hobbs. Excuse me. Jinghang Alex Yang, host family Jessica Fujikawa. Wande Vicky Yi, host family Daniel and Etsajenet Gebra Mariam. Shenyang Linda Yi, host family Bill and Marlene Spielman. Hao Peter Zhang, host family Roberto Garcia Galan. Huajin Joshua Zhang, host family Jose Vargas. Jianwei Eric Zhang, host family Leslie Haxby McNeil. Yu Chen Zhang, host family Shelley Hurd. Ruarong Rose Zhao, host family Greg and Laura Snow. Sinyu Echo Zhang, host family William and Christina Thomas. Kugwe Gary Zhao, host family Kelly Clark. And I do want to recognize 3 additional folks. These fine young students from our sister school in Shanghai actually have 2 teachers with them. They are over against the far wall, Miss Stella Sun and Mr. Roy Wong. And the coordinator for the host families and the students who works very hard is our very own Miss Laura Wolke, who was out in the hall. So it takes a lot to do this. So thank you to the host families, students. Welcome to Winton Woods.
Picture time. Camera lens to get it all in.
All right, excellent.
I know, my God.
Shay Shay. Homework. Here it is. Come on, we're good. We got the picture already. I heard you have homework. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Yes. One you won't hear.
Folks, as our students are exiting, we have 2 more special recognitions, just FYI, if you wanted to stick around for those. We'll let them get home to homework. Thank you all for being here.
He works for Fifth Third. I need financial people for it. See if you can get Miss Jordan out of that corner.
Mrs. Jordan?
If they live in the district, that would be great.
Talk to him because they took a recess. Tried to recess.
I just noticed his. Well, you can sure tell where we stand, can't you? There's going to be 5 left. See, Viola, they're not all here for us.
We think they love us.
They all go. They probably all have recorded their things. I'm trying to
Oh, sure. And they're going to watch it later.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Or he's just pursuing. Okay, all right. Yes, you can.
Okay.
All right, Noah. For those of you that are still left, January is School Board Recognition Month. The student, staff, and communities of the Winton Woods City Schools join the Ohio School Board Association to honor the exemplary leadership, service, and endless hours of dedication given by elected board members on behalf of our school district and its communities. We thank our board members, Ms. Jessica Miranda, Vice President Dr. Viola Johnson, board members Mr. Jeff Birdie, Mrs. Paula Kuhn, and Mrs. Katrina Ruglis. Winton Woods High School Student Council President Noah Smith will present certificates of appreciation on behalf of the Ohio State Board Association to our board members. Ohio School, Board Association to our board members. So, one at a time, President Miranda. We'd like for you to move right to the front, please, madam. Yes, thank you. This is the only time I can kind of tell them what to do. Our next recipient, Dr. Viola Johnson. I don't know how he does it, but Mr. Jeff Birdie. Stand right in between those two, Mr. Birdie. Really, Dr. Johnson? Okay. Next, Mrs. Paula Kuhn. And our final recipient, Mrs. Katrina Ruggless. I know the new school board members have to be wondering, I've been on the board for like a month, and now I'm receiving an award. So your timing was impeccable. Thank you for everything that you do, and the community believes that we're moving in the right direction based on your leadership. Thank you again. Our final recognition for gifts would be to recognize Mr. Justin Stallworth of City Hill Church for his generous donation of $500 for holiday meals, coats, gloves, and hats to be distributed to needy families. Is he here tonight? Okay. All right, we'll make sure we get his award to him. Thank you very much. And those are all the recognitions, gifts, and honors, Madam President.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. Congratulations again to all of our wonderful students, staff, and community supporters. We'll now take a 5-minute recess. Okay, we will now resume our board meeting. We have no public comments, so we will move right into the approval of the minutes as attached. Board, unless you see any necessary changes, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I would like to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is our treasurer's report. Mr. Seymour, you have the floor.
As you can see, for the first 6 months, we ended the December with year-to-date revenues of $22.1 million, with month-to-date revenues in the general fund of 1.7, of which most of that was state foundation. We haven't started getting real estate advances to this point. We also, in the general fund, had year-to-date expenditures of $23 million, and the good news is that we're running about 2% under budget. That was not the case 2 months ago, so I guess all of the departments decided to spend their funds early in the year. Let's hope so. The district had an unencumbered balance in all funds of 13.8, of which 13.3 million was the general fund. And Mrs. Ruggles had a very good question that she sent to me that you may or may not also have, is that you'll notice that some of the state funds and federal funds were in a negative position for the month of December. Not only has the ODE changed their processing in requesting cash funds for federal funds, they also went on vacation in our new timeline, so we were unable to get any, even though we filed timely, we weren't able to get those. It's all fine now for January. But with the new regulations for cash requests, you may see from time to time we have to estimate our expenditures for the next 10 days, including a payroll when we request the funds. So from time to time you may see a negative which will clear up at the first of the month, but we go ahead and close the books. But I just thought I'd share that question with everyone because it was a good question.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions for Mr. Seymour? Okay, with no objections being heard, let the financial report for the month of December 2015 be submitted to audit. And Mr. Seymour, back to you for your recommendations.
On our investments for the year, for the month of December, we earned $12,519.
Board, a motion would be in order.
I motion to accept the treasurer's report as submitted.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, we'll move on to you with the reports, 8.01.
Yes, Madam President and Board. I'd like to have the Board pay special attention. There'll be a special ceremony at the ES on February the 18th at 6:30, and it is the National Honor Society ceremony. So we want to start that early with our elementary students and see if we can move them through the process so they are nationally recognized for every grade level that they are in Winton Woods. The other special event, there is something very special happening tomorrow, and that is at the intermediate building, and that's from 3:10 to 4:10, Soup Day. So you should have received invitations, and this does not mean bring your soup. There will be soup there available for you. I started to enter the contest, but I just didn't want to win this year. All right. But you know how that turns out, Dr. Johnson. And then the final one to pay close attention to, there is a science fair open house at the middle school, and that begins at 5 o'clock tomorrow, on the 28th of January. Any of these activities that board members can attend just makes it that much special and that much more exciting for students. So those are the upcoming school events, and the BLT minutes are there for your approval.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. We'll move into 8.02.
Mr. Denny? Soup Day has just been changed, 11 to 2. All right. Okay. Thank you, Doc.
Good evening, Board and Mr. Smith. Welcome new members. Mr. Denny and I will be presenting the budget for under IDEA tonight. We're going to tag team this presentation. It is a really brief overview as a requirement under federal regulations that we get input from the public. We'll get there. I believe you have a copy.
Thank you, Mr. Denny.
We can go to the next slide, Steve. Thank you. The overview will include the fiscal year, the 2015 budget with the current fiscal year 2016 budget. And like I mentioned previously, we're required to get public participation, input, and comments regarding this. So at the end, we will ask for that. This is just a little really brief background. About 1 in 5 people have a learning disability. 1 million children ages 6 to 21 have some form of learning disability and receive special education services. At Winton Woods, our percentage of students with disabilities on IEPs is 16%. If we include our preschool students, we're at 17%. IDA stands for the Individuals with Disability Education Act. It's a federal law and is funded federally and then flows down to the state. It ensures that all students who are eligible and served on an IEP get funding for their services. So Mr. Denny will get a little bit more into the allocation. This is a chart of the budget from 2008 to 2016. As you can see, it started out relatively strong and big drop in fiscal year 09, and then has remained somewhat steady. But still, these funds aren't nearly enough to fund the services that our students require. We have some other funding, catastrophic costs that comes in, but with this percentage of special ed students, the funding, we still have a long way to go.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Appreciate the opportunity to address and then also invite public participation and public comment about the IDEA budget allocations. This slide just shows the last 2 fiscal years, the current fiscal year 2016 and then the previous 2015. And you can see the initial allocation has remained relatively flat, and the previous slide showed that too. You can see it leveled off and has been pretty constant for quite some time now. So what I'd like to do is get a little more detailed and granular with regard to the actual budget functions and objects, taking a look at how the money's spent, how it's allocated. And of course, the federal fiscal year runs differently than the Ohio school fiscal year. Runs through September, the end of September, whereas ours is a July 1 start date. But be that as it may, you can see here that the bulk of the purpose for the spending is instruction. It's in the purple. And that's followed closely by the green, which is governance or administration. And on down, you can see there's non-public, professional development, indirect costs. So the vast majority of the IDEA budget is spent on staff. The board may be aware there are some restrictions on IDEA spending as it relates to the general fund. It's a principle called maintenance of effort. And you have to maintain expenditures in the general fund. In other words, that's sort of the Fed's way of saying you can't swap funds out. This is not intended to replace your obligation as the local district. It's intended to supplement the types of services you can provide. Next slide. So this is 2015, if you'd like to compare. Can you go back? So this is by function, and then the next one is by object, and this is 2015, both years. And then we'll take a look at 2016. It's just for comparison's sake. But this, and so the previous slide was what's it for? This slide is what is it? And in this case, you can see it's salaries, the bulk of which from the previous slide by correlation you could see would be for instruction. And then, of course, benefits and salaries together would make up approximately 90% of the pie. And that's normal. Education tends to run personnel heavy as it is, 78% being, I believe, the state average. Here's this year's IDEA budget by function. So again, this is what is it spent on. And again, fairly similar to last year. One note, indirect cost is an amount approved by the state that we're allowed to charge off for the amount of time and expense we spend administering the grants. So if you're wondering what that is, that's what indirect cost is. And we don't determine that, the state does. And the final slide is IDEA budget by object. So again, what is it spent on? What was it spent for? Is the previous slide. This is what is it spent on. And again, salaries and benefits make up the bulk of it. At this point, what we would do is ask if any members of the public have made their way to the meeting tonight, if they have any input about how we're allocating the dollars, other suggestions, comments, are certainly invited at this point. Yes, Ms. Lemkin-Mucha.
How are we in comparison to other districts with similar demographics? If we're at 16%, what are the other districts? What are they looking
I don't know. I'd have to go look that up. I appreciate it. I do know that the bulk of IDEA is salary benefits, but I don't know if it's like, hey, we're at 89% and the state average is 87, or for salary benefits. I don't know, but I'll make a note and find out.
This doesn't answer your question, but I do know that we don't turn kids away because that's not in our mission. But I do know that some districts have attempted to manipulate our system by letting families know your child could be best served at Winton Woods, as opposed to them taking on the responsibility of educating all of their children. So it's a very unfortunate situation that some districts do that. But I will say that our student service manager, our director, Ms. Darcy, is very, very clear that our mission is to educate all of our children.
Yes, Mr. Cleary.
Mr. Denny, do any of those dollars, the IDEA dollars, do they flow through to charter and private schools? It is in that number.
Non-public does. It's a state-determined calculation. Again, it's not a Winton Woods calculation. It's determined by the Office of Federal Programs.
So we administer those dollars and then it flows out to the charter?
Correct. To the non-public school.
To the non-public?
Yes. Yeah. Charters would still be public schools.
Okay.
So
do those dollars flow through us at the charter level?
I don't believe they do.
Pass-through dollars.
Yeah, it's passed through.
Just pass through?
Right. Right. Does that sound right, Mr. Seymour?
Charters and community schools get no federal funds.
Right. And we're only responsible for the non-public school in our district boundaries, which is John Paul II.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes, sir.
Right. That's well said. Other thoughts, comments, questions, input for the good of the...
Mr. Denny?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a number that is spent like per student or per child? Do you have that breakdown? Like what, how much is spent per child on an IEP? You know, as far as like instructional learning?
Varies with disabilities.
It varies.
It's a really good question, though. I don't have that. I will be happy to find out.
Varies by disabilities, Ms. Darcy.
The
Right.
funding is based on the disability category. So where a speech-only student would get a certain amount, and then an MD student, a student with multiple disabilities, is funded more heavily.
Right.
So there's a scale based on their disability from the least impairment to the more significant disability.
And if the IEP team determines that a child's least restrictive environment's out of the district, you know, in a service facility, those costs can really accelerate.
And that
But
goes
if that's
well
what the child
beyond-
needs.
That goes well beyond
Right.
the funding that's allocated when we have to.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So if you have a certain amount of funding, and then if a student has multiple disabilities and they need to leave the premises, or they need to have a person that's with them to help them along, that's outside of the money, the dollars that you're showing us here tonight?
It's well outside the dollars. In fact, that's what the catastrophic costs we file for those kids that are in the neighborhood of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. So we file that to recoup some of that money back, but that's not what we get up front.
I have a question. Do you get the money, all the money in that catastrophic, or is it only a certain
It's
portion?
it's split. It's kind of split the pot. Everybody puts in, and then they see how much, and then, so it's different each year.
I have two questions. Given the fact that Winton Woods has, really done a really good job with students with disabilities, have we thought about how can we utilize that as an asset for our district, looking at if we are doing a good job with our students with disabilities, can that be used, flip it as a attraction that for moving into the district for students that may have disabilities, if we have excellence in our service?
That's a good question. I think Mr. Smith alluded to it in an indirect way, that we have open enrollment, and we have several students with IEPs that are open enrolled. I think we've got to be cautious in terms of how we advertise that, because from what I hear from my colleagues, that we have a good reputation, and a lot of families do want our services here at Winton Woods, and the cost that it is associated with educating them would never cover the cost that we get, or the money we get from the state and federal.
Yeah. We can talk about that a little bit more, because I have a couple ideas about, we have the Springer School.
Yes.
Is there any way that we could think about that that model that they use, and because you have individuals coming in to pay above and beyond. And the other question kind of is connected with that, and it's just that we had this conversation today at work. So when you look at the categories where the spending is, do we do anything with supplies and equipment and tools?
Absolutely.
Where does that fall under? Does that fall under?
I think that was
There
in one
was
of
a
the
supply.
slides, wasn't it? Yes.
So the equipment falls
Definitely.
under supplies.
Equipment, assistive technology, instructional materials. It's all in this budget.
And do you do anything above and beyond? For instance, the state may mandate that you do certain things, and you may provide assisted learning things that's not necessarily required, but it's the right thing to do. Do you purchase anything like that is also?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I was in a meeting today with Ms. Wilson, and that required funding beyond. So if it's the right thing to do for the student and it's a team decision, we provide it.
Ms.
As long
Darcy,
as it's access to the curriculum, we must provide it.
can you speak a little bit about the right thing to do as it relates to grade 23 students?
So students on an IEP can attend through their 21st birthday. The state does not, they count it against us if the student isn't a 4-year grad. So we call these students, they're coded 23s, and often we are in IEP meetings where students want to go on to the Oaks, but they want their 4-year experience at the high school. So as a team, you sit down and discuss that, and most parents want them to get the basics out of the way and not have to worry about credits and then go on and concentrate in a field at the vocational school. That, and I've called the state several times, talked to several people, they still are hopefully going to change that, but we get that counted against on a report card for graduation rate because they did not graduate in 4 years, although it's a conflict with the federal regulation.
Absolutely it is.
Approximately how many students do we have in that category?
I can get that for you. I'd hate to give you a number that's not
that's
accurate,
fine.
but there's a fair number. 15, 24.
And those all count against us as far as dropout
Yes.
rate
Yes,
and things of
yes,
that nature is what you
they
mean?
do.
Mhm.
Most years it amounts to about a letter grade difference in each the 4-year cohort calculation and the
Right.
5 years. If you get a C, we probably would have had a B if those students weren't in the mix. Not every year, but that's typically the trend.
And if I might add, they would mix both the 4-year and 5-year.
Absolutely.
Because typically it's a 2-year program.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Holden.
Any more questions?
There's never any, in the IEP meetings, there's never any question to the parents when the parents say, I want my child to stay longer. There's never any coaching or encouragement. It's, okay, we will provide these services and we will do it in a very effective way with integrity. So I've sat in on several of those meetings and the parents are very pleased with the outcome because it's the right thing to do. Does it cost us a letter grade down the road on the report card? Probably, but okay. What does that mean when you're talking about doing what's right for children?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Denny and Mrs. Darcy. If there are no further questions or comments on this topic, we'll move on to 9.01, which is our personnel schedules. Superintendent Smith?
Yes, Madam President and Board, it's the recommendation is to approve the personnel schedules as presented. Schedule A, resignations and retirements. Schedule C, support staff. Schedule D, extra duty and supplemental employment. And finally, Schedule E, leaves.
Board, a motion would be in order.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, 9.02.
Yes, Madam President, the recommendation is to approve the high school program of studies for 2016-17 for courses and descriptions. I think the board already has a copy of this in their binder regarding all of the course codes and catalogs and how it works.
Board, a motion would be in order.
Catalog grows with AP courses each year, so we're very excited about that.
Madam President, I'd like to approve the high school program of studies for 2016-17 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just would like to note that, I guess it's on page 15 for the honors diploma, that information has been updated, just to bring note to that, and that it is now in line with the superintendent's top selections, top
Yes.
scholars. So just to note that, I think maybe in past years there may have been some questions about that, so
There are no longer any questions.
no longer any questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. I would also give a special consideration to Dr. Holden and also Principal Martin. They met with students at the beginning of the year, letting them know where they stood as far as the honors diploma is concerned. You know, in some districts, it's done at the end. You made it or you didn't. But I think it's important to coach students appropriately to say you're there. All you have to do is maintain or take another course or get a 27 on the ACT. So thanks to Dr. Holden and Mr. Martin for letting kids know exactly where they stand academically so that at the end of the day, we're not having those conferences with families.
Thank you for being proactive. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, we'll move on to 9.03.
Yes, Madam President and Board, I'd like to read a resolution regarding the National School Counseling Week, February the 1st to the 5th. It reads, whereas the Winton Woods City School Board of Education wishes to recognize our capable, caring, and professional counselors who are an integral part of the Winton Woods City Schools. And whereas in the age of educational reform and school performance standards, student welfare, motivation, and academic achievement are essential goals for the success of our students. School counselors can assist with the mission because of their training and education they've received. And whereas it is appropriate and fitting that the school's district and community recognize the important contributions school counselors provide to enhance the future success of our children. Now therefore be it resolved this 25th day of January 2016 that the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education supports and recognizes the important role of school counselors and thereby proclaims February 1st to the 5th, 2016 as National School Counseling Week. Please note, counseling is not what it used to be. Counselors have to be more integral, more involved, and more talented based on the needs of our children. So kudos to the counselors.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution recognizing National School Counseling Weeks, February 1st through the 5th, 2016, as presented.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Superintendent, we'll now move on to 9.04.
Mr. Denny. Mr. Denny's going to give you information to get your approval for cell tower utility easement on Corbett Road.
Oh, we're on 9.04. Proposed revised board policies.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, before we get to you, Mr. Denny.
Stay up there. Don't leave. Okay, to approve the board revised policy 1530, administrators evaluation of principals and other administrators property district as presented. What I did is I gave you guys a overview of why this revision was part of the request, and this comes from Neola. All districts are moving in this same order, where there's a memorandum of understanding, where it's more in line with how the teachers are evaluated as opposed to not. So,
Thank you. Board, a motion would be in order.
I motion, Madam President, to approve the proposed revised policies regarding administration evaluation of principals and other administrators, and also the property district webpage as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now, 9.05,
I was
Mr.
anxious for
Superintendent.
that one. All right, so it's the request to approve the cell tower utility easement at 10020 Corbett Road. And Mr. Denny, business manager, will present the information.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and good evening again, Board.
Good evening.
You should have before you a set of documents and some schematics, some maps that show a requested easement by the Crown Castle Property Management Company. They act on behalf of T-Mobile, and the district has had a cell tower site that they've leased to T-Mobile since 2006. And in 2012, the district accepted a $99,000 lump sum payment in exchange for ongoing site easement at that location. So at this point, what they'd like to do is install a gas-powered electric generator on site so that in the event of a power outage, cell service is not interrupted. And I did a little homework. I still want to talk to somebody that really knows cell towers, because some people can walk up to them, look at them, and go, oh, you've got this, in terms of service providers. Our records show Cincinnati Bell, T-Mobile, and Clearwire, which got bought out by Sprint, are on that tower. But part of the agreement we signed was that we'd get a 50% profit share on any new cell service providers that were on that tower. So that was part of why we did that. And so far, there's no new services, but we'll keep watching. At any rate, what they'd like to do is install an electric generator. To do that, they need an easement because the nearest gas trunk line is on Corbett Road. So they've got to connect across our property. It'll run parallel to the lot at South, not disrupting anything there, not disrupting anything at our bus garage. This is a lot better than going across the parking lot, which is what they did the first time back in 2006. So it doesn't cost the district anything. These are fairly routine. If you serve a term on the board, you'll probably see one or two of these easements. They don't come every month, but we've granted easements in the past to Metropolitan Sewer District, to several other public entities. This is a private entity, but it serves in an almost quasi-public fashion in terms of cell service being, like if we survey who's got Sprint, T-Mobile, or Cincinnati Bell, probably several people in this room do. So certainly happy to entertain any questions you might have about the easement or
I do have one question.
any information I can provide. Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
maybe not a question, more like a comment, because you've
Sure.
already 3/4 of the way answered it, so I thank you
Okay.
for that. So we've gotten the lump sum, yes, but what is it that the district gets in return for this tower being there? So, thinking in business terms, we're helping their product grow, prosper, stay online. What are we getting in return for that?
And again, apart from the money we've already done in the agreement we signed that said we would cooperate with these kinds of ventures, I truly believe it makes the site more attractive for a potential service provider. If I know that if I put my cell service there, the clients that subscribe, let's say Verizon wants to put a microwave dish there and a power unit, if they know that that site won't go down during a power outage, makes it slightly more lucrative from a marketing standpoint than a cell tower without that. Which is why I believe the property management company acting on behalf of T-Mobile, they're going to spend pretty good amount of money to put that generator there. Why are they doing that? Makes it more lucrative from a marketing standpoint. If one of those is added, the district makes 50% of the profits on that added service. So that financially will be prospectively in our best interest.
And we're already making that now?
No, we don't have that
So that's
now
only
because
with
nothing's
the
been
generator.
added since 12.
I think the thing that Mr. Denny mentioned, Board, is we it's a very interesting composition,
Mhm.
but we have to be very, very careful of who's adding to the tower and how do they let you know that that's happening. They may let T-Mobile know, they may
Mhm.
let them know they have to, but how do we make sure that that agreement is wholesome for us? And I think that's really your concern.
Mhm.
You know, when they add to the tower, who do they have to notify? Think about it. School would probably be the last person you tell.
Mhm.
But we want to make sure that, and I think that the work that Mr. Denny does for our business department keeps his eye on it. I'm not saying that I expect him to climb up the tower, you know, every week and check and see if there's a new provider. But if we gave him that commission, I believe he would do so.
I shared
Might be
with
a good
Mr.
work
Smith a
ethic.
photo if you'd like to pass it down. So I feel like there's more than 3 on there when I see that, but I'm not a,
Well, okay, they
a cell
have to
phone
build
expert.
this tower. I understand that there would be a 50% profit share on new services, but as of today, they've had the tower there since 2000, whatever. 6, and we haven't received any profit sharing. I don't know what would make anybody think that we would get any. I mean, it's been there since 2006. I mean, maybe it's going to grow. Then the other question I have is, what, if any, are the safety issues as far as traffic for the kids and when they're putting it up? And that's kind of a weird area right there anyway. You know, well, the tower.
The
is
tower's
up,
already
but
there.
they want to install, you said, a new gas generator.
Mhm.
Is it noise? Is there any
Yeah.
noise that's generated?
Not any more than you'll hear at the bus garage. This is not anywhere near, this is probably 150, 200 yards from Primary South.
Mhm.
And here's some more photos. If you ever drive by, you'll see it's enclosed in about a 12-foot barbed wire topped cyclone fence.
I just still don't really hear a lot of benefit for us. I think I would like to do some more, ask some more questions, do some more digging before I would say I would agree to that. Like, I don't know, who's been taking care of it up to this point? They have. And have they informed you any time that there's been
I have,
additions or-
yes. I have record from 2009 and 2010 that 2 providers were added. Now, keep in mind, at that time, the agreement was not in place where we would profit share with them. So,
Oh,
in
in 2006, that wasn't a.
no, it was
part of
only
it?
T-Mobile in 2006. And my understanding is, rather than building new towers, typically what these cell companies do is they look for viable sites and they share them and they sublease and pay each other.
Right.
So in 2009, Cincinnati Bell was added, and we were informed. I wasn't in this office at the time. I was at a school. I'm still recovering from being a principal. Clearwire was added in 2010, again, before 2012, when the 50% profit sharing plus the $99,000 buyout was initiated by the district and approved by the board. Now, I will also share with you, we ask the board permission for reasons. You have absolute authority in this area. But as contract was signed, stipulate, and I'll read it for you if I can put my binoculars on. So I'll read you the clauses in the contract. This is under item 7, improvements, utilities, and access. It says, tenant shall have right to alter, replace, expand, enhance, and upgrade the antenna facilities at any time during the term of this lease. And if I read down further, it says, tenant shall have the right to install utilities at tenant's expense and to improve the present facilities on the property, including but not limited to the installation of emergency power generators. Landlord agrees to use reasonable efforts in assisting tenant to acquire necessary utility service. So part of the reason I didn't question this much when they approached me in November was I knew we were required by contract to assist them.
Now, that was signed when?
This was signed in 2006.
Contracts can always be negotiated, right?
But this doesn't cost the district anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're giving up our land, but we get nothing out of it. You know, it just seems like they could at least say, hey, let's give all the teachers, half off on their cell phone bill or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, what are we getting for this? They're using our property. I mean, you got the lump sum, but that was in 2006. That took care of that and that contract period. Now they're coming back again. I'm just saying, we want to build a partnership. If you really want to be our partners, let's partner. Wouldn't you like for all the principals to have cell phones paid for by T-Mobile? Anybody disagree with that?
Maybe we can move.
I mean, maybe that's a little lofty, but I'm just saying, I would
I
like to
agree.
do some more, I don't know, investigating on this, just to see what, I mean, what are they willing to, I mean, I understand you said that that's part of the contract, and if we're, you know, by obligation
Right.
to do that.
How much
But
time
if
do we
not,
have to make this
yeah,
decision?
that's a good question.
So here's the other question. Does the contract stipulate we can't stop them from doing it?
No, but we can expect litigation.
Yeah, they would.
Because we signed an agreement, and they know it. I had this conversation with the rep from Louisville this morning, and I've talked to her earlier, and they're very cordial, but they see a viable financial reason to do this, and we basically stipulated we would cooperate with them. And frankly, they're going to say, we already paid you for this, and you agreed to it.
I have a question. Do they have a time frame when they want to have start construction? What's the duration of the construction?
It's what you call directional bore, so there's not even an open trench across the property. So they'll dig a hole to get the bore in the ground below frost line, which is 36 inches, and that thing bores underground out to Corbett Road. It's extremely safe. It's non-disruptive. Can be done on the weekend. You know, we can control all of those things. And in fact, the contract also stipulates we can occupy the easement space simultaneously as long as we don't interfere with each other's operations. So while maybe we don't have much to gain, prospectively we might argue we have something to gain and we have nothing to lose.
So are we essentially being asked to vote on a contract that's already have been signed?
No, you're being asked to grant an easement for them to put a utility line underground with a fiber optic cable next to it. And they basically want a swath on either side of that to have rights to service it should anything go wrong. And we already have one there. It just doesn't run. It's going to run farther. So basically, if you look at the map, it runs from the bus garage site, which is where the cell tower is, underground down behind the office for the transportation department, and to a Duke utility pole. It makes a dogleg around our building.
So is this not a whole lot of change, just to enhance what's already there, maybe? Is that what?
It allows them to get it. So
Better?
in a power outage, the natural gas still flows. So it basically allows them to install a gas line to power generate. This is the same project we did at our intermediate school this summer. I don't know if some of you are aware. We didn't want our district network to go down. That's a safety issue. Phones go out. Everything depends on computers now. So we installed a natural gas generator to ensure that we didn't lose power. So in essence, all we're doing is giving them permission to run a gas line. And so that while the contract's there, and there's certain things the contract stipulates, the board ultimately has the authority to say, yes, you can dig, or no, you can't. I feel it's my obligation to share with the board, if we say no, which you have every right to do, we can expect there to be a response from them that could end up costing the district financially.
Well, I don't know if we're thinking of saying no, maybe just that we might have some more details or questions that we
Sure.
need. So if it meets the appetite of the board, I'd be willing to table this until the next regular meeting so that perhaps we could invite you to our work session meeting, Mr. Denny, and I just want to fully understand this 50% initiative, profit sharing, and if there's anything else we could possibly negotiate.
Madam
Sure.
President, I think Mr. Birdie asked a very relevant question, the timeline.
They want to move on it as soon as possible. I've had them wait 2 months already because I wanted to prepare this to bring before the board. But again, it's the board's property.
So
It's
there's
public
really
property.
no written deadline?
No.
Okay. Well, board members, your appetite, please. If you're ready to vote on this, don't let me stand in the way.
Would we need to make a motion to table it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to table the cell tower utility easement at 10020 Corbett Road until we have our work session and can discuss it a little further, find out a little bit more about it.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote?
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion to table passes unanimously.
Mhm.
Mr. Denny, I think it's safe to say we'll see you at the work session.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay. Oh, I'm up next. All right, so we'll move right into the legislative report. Colleagues, there's many bills, many is probably an understatement, being worked on and funneling through our State House regarding education specifically. But in the effort to preserve time, I'm only bringing you 3. So the first one, you don't have a handout in front of you for. This is just something I want to talk about because it's already been passed. So HB 487, House Bill 487, already passed and has been enacted at the state level. This piece of legislation was on the topic of GEDs. I don't know if you've received the email from our partners over at OSBA, but our OSBA lobbyists have provided testimony to the State House in an effort to amend or change this bill in order to give credit to us local school districts for students who pass the GED after they've dropped out of high school. So, for instance, if a student didn't graduate, they took up a job, part-time job turned into a full-time job, decided, hey, this is working out for me, I don't know if I'm going to go back and graduate. If they chose later on over the summer to take the GED and they passed, we wouldn't get credit for that with this new bill. So OSBA's lobbyists have been up there passing testimony, talking about what is it that we can do to maybe change something in this bill to allow local school districts like ours to get credit, since essentially we prepared the student. They take it later, yes, but is there any way we could get credit for it? So basically the district should receive credit versus being penalized for a dropout, because do bear in mind, like we talked about earlier with the 23-year graduates, is we get penalized for this. So just sharing this with you is something to be aware of.
Madam President,
yes.
I think 47 is stalling simply because they don't know how to give the credit.
Right.
Because they're thinking about giving it in percentages, giving you a fourth, a half, strange numbers.
That'd be wild, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know how they would determine that. Yeah. So, like I said, the logic behind this is that the district prepared the student for that test. Therefore, the district should receive credit for the passage of that test. So, I'll keep you posted on this. Just wanted you to bear in mind that OSBA is working on that from a lobbyist standpoint. Second item, which you do have in front of you, is House Bill 137. This bill's making its way through the legislature, and it is regarding organ and tissue donors. So this piece of legislation is a bipartisan proposal to amend ORC 3313.60 to require that our health curriculum include the instruction on the positive effect and impact of becoming an organ and tissue donor. So again, this is something that's still working its way. It's been referred to committee, but this is something I'll keep an eye on as well, and yet another example of our wonderful elected officials as they attempt to mandate certain curricula for school districts like ours. All right, brings me to number 3. You also have this one in front of you. Another example of my previous statement, which is House Bill 146. This also wants to amend Section 3360 of the ORC to require instruction in cursive handwriting. So, as we become a more technological age, some states have already introduced and passed legislation that mandated cursive handwriting be taken out of the state's curriculum. Here in Ohio, however, this bill has been introduced to require cursive handwriting be taught from kindergarten throughout 5th grade levels. This was referred to a committee back in April 2015. So again, just something to keep an eye on, and I will certainly keep you posted on the outcome or lack thereof on this one.
Madam President.
So, yes.
And board, I don't know if you are aware, but thousands of children have been retained because of cursive handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands. And it's a very destructive process, especially with the age of technology.
Right. Yeah, and as I said, lots of states have already taken it out. But here we are in Ohio. So as a side note, I've provided you with the printout copies of both House Bill 137 and 146 for you to read in its entirety. They're not too long. So if you choose to do so, you have a copy of that. This will give you a better picture of who the sponsors are in each bill as well, and more details on the proposed amendments. And that's all I have for you today. We will move on to the Great Oaks report. Mr. Cleary is with us tonight, so Mr. Cleary, you have the floor.
Good evening, Madam President and Board, and congratulations to the new board members. I can tell that you have an appetite to do the work just from your conversation this evening. I will prepare a packet for you every month. You have a copy of the packet. I'm not going to read everything there, but I thought it might be important to start off talking about what is career technical education, just in case you don't know. By law in Ohio, every high school student has the opportunity to enroll in career technical education programs. This means that in addition to the standard academic requirements that students take, they take career-centered programming and curriculum at the same time. This specialized education is delivered through career centers or in local high schools. Coleraine, for example, they do it themselves at their high school. Winton Woods elected the board sometime in the past, I believe back in the 70s, elected to use the Great Oaks program. At that time, I don't think it was called the Great Oaks program, but that's kind of what they did. So why is it kind of important to our region right here? As Ohio's economy continues to recover, career technical education is part of the solution. Career technical education prepares high school students for many skilled and increasingly technical jobs that are going unfilled. I'm an electrical contractor by trade, and we can't find enough employees. An electrical program exists on all 4 of the campuses of Great Oaks, so that need fulfills the local business's requirements for employees. You might ask, what are some of the courses or some of the careers that our students are involved with? Agriculture, environmental systems, arts and communications, business, administrative services, construction technologies, education and training, engineering, science technologies, finance, health science, hospitality and tourism, human services, information technology, law and public safety, manufacturing technologies, marketing and transportation systems. Mr. Smith and I have had an opportunity on multiple occasions to go out and visit our students at the Great Oaks campus, and it's always amazing when you have the opportunity to talk with them and you find out, if you ask them the question, why are you here? Why did you choose Great Oaks? It's always interesting for the student to say, I really have a passion for this thing, whatever it is. Maybe it's robotics. And I wanted my world to revolve around this. So in addition to the regular academics that our students have, he gets to fill his need for something he really is hungry for. It's kind of an exciting thing to see in our students. I've always enjoyed getting to do that. Great Oaks is serving 13,000 students in satellite programs at affiliated schools. Winton Woods is an affiliated school. I believe we had an engineering track with Great Oaks. I think we've had robotics in the past, and we're doing information technology currently, I believe, or introduction to technology. The Great Oaks program looks very similar to the Winton Woods program in terms of the type of students that we have. Currently, we have 671 students from 74 countries in our ESL program. That's really amazing that we're able to cope and convert some of the technical language over for those students. And we're having great success at that. 98% of our students graduate on time at the Great Oaks program. 60% of all of our students enter post-secondary. 50% of them are employed within the first 9 months. So it's exciting to see that the careers that they've chosen and the classes they've taken have equated to the jobs that hopefully they wanted. Our Student of the Month highlights are Seth Bleach, I believe it's pronounced. He was in Project Search at Xavier University. He's the intern of the month. He is currently in restaurant operations at the Great Oaks. Something kind of to note that maybe many people don't know, our police academy at the Great Oaks, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department now uses us exclusively for their certification and their training. So it's a great segue for our students. I believe we have 5 students right now that are interested in law enforcement, and they're in that track at the Great Oaks. So they're kind of on the inside of taking that next step if they want to become a policeman or go off for post-secondary. I'm going to kind of add on to what our Madam President was saying about some legislative things that are impacting our students in the Great Oaks. Probably one of the most important ones is one issue that will come to the forefront is the implementation of the new Every Student Succeeds Act, which replaces No Child Left Behind. I always love this because as much research as I'm doing to understand it, and before as a board member trying to understand No Child Left Behind, there's always this language that says new regulations will be forthcoming.
Right.
So they've passed something, they don't know how they're going to operate it yet, and the regulations are forthcoming. We're going to figure it out as we navigate through it. That makes me think of IDEA and that, you know, the funding won't follow because the rules are going to continue to change. One of the other items that's important to note is the new budget cycle will begin with the release of President Obama's 2017 budget in February, followed by the House and Senate versions in the spring. That's definitely and directly going to affect IDEA. So any influence you have, your letter writing, your emails, it is important because it will definitely help our students. With that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Mr. Cleary.
Thank you.
Okay. Board, are there any board motions or recommendations this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move into board comments. Mrs. Ruggless, any comments?
Nope, I'm good.
Thank you. Mr. Birdie?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson?
Just one, we had the conversation with the superintendent, and Paula and I were there, and as we sat around the table and ate, it's just really quite amazing that every one of the students had something that they were planning on doing, and it just never ceases to amaze me. It's not my first one that I went to, but it just never ceases to amaze me that these students they see themselves in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to too. And there's something called hope science, that if you can instill hope and have somebody catch on to that, then they can believe. If you believe in me, then I can believe in me as well. So I don't know. I just thought I would just throw that out there. There are a couple more that are actually planned. We had one that had to cancel because we're waiting on our blizzard that never came. But anyway, but we weren't sure. The news said that we should prepare. So anyway, but there are a couple more, and it's just really interesting to see and to connect. And I guess just to see that there are students that have a lot of hope for their future, and so we should believe in them as well. So just the only comment I have.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Mrs. Kuhn?
And to piggyback a little bit on that, one of my missions that I want to do is to make sure I reach out into the schools to the events. I was at the middle school, their play. It was actually a play. It wasn't like a talent show, but it was very well coordinated, wonderfully done. It was very exciting to see our young students that were in 7th and 8th grade, how poised and professional they were for such a young age, and to move into the high school level. So I'm very excited about that. But that's something that I'm very committed to get into our schools, to support our staff, to let them know that the board is there to support them and to be there for them.
Thank you, Mrs. Kuhn. Mr. Seymour, anything from you?
No, thank
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, there was a fantastic email that was sent to me by Ms. Ashbrook, and I'd like to read it if you don't mind.
Please.
Good morning. Over the past month, we've had some busy musicians representing our school. On January 16th, we had 8 students that performed in the Xavier University Honor Band. Those students were Adversa Pratacito, Minyata Anderson on oboe, Sarah Parker on bassoon, Jasmine Smith and Brittany Rucker on clarinet, Raven Ramsey, Aaliyah Scott, and Darian Hazard on trombone. Last Saturday, on January 23rd, we had a great majority of students participate in the Ohio Music Education Association District 14 Solo and Ensemble. All participants received either a superior or an excellent rating. Last Saturday, we had students perform with Northern Kentucky University Honor Band. Those students were Minyata Anderson on oboe, Jasmine Smith, Brittany Rucker on clarinet, Zach, I'll get your last name next time, Zach, on baritone saxophone, Jordan Denny, my son, on trumpet, and Raven Ramsey and Aaliyah Scott on trombone. This week at our state convention, we have students that will be performing in 3 different ensembles. Parker Sarah is a member of the Northern Hills Bassoon Ensemble. Any of you know anything about a bassoon, a double reed instrument? Very, very difficult to play. So congratulations, Sarah. Jason Johnson is a member of the Cincinnati Symphony Youth Orchestra. We want to have 3 junior high students that play in the Cincinnati Youth Wind Ensemble. Matthew Bernardo on bassoon, Alex Ingram on French horn, Abra Up the Grove on trombone. Our very own Felipe Morales Torres is also one of the conductors for the CSYO. Early in the month, we had some middle school students that were involved in OMEA District 14 honor groups. On January 10th, Rhonda Nukumara on clarinet, Aiden Hassard on trombone performed in the OMEA District 14 Junior High Band. On January 16th, 5 of the orchestra students from the middle school participate in the District 14 Junior High Honors Orchestra. Bravo.
Wow.
You can't get this without putting some work in. So one of the things that I want to just, let the board understand, playing a reed instrument and then going to a brass instrument, very, very difficult. Some of our students have mastered both. That is absolutely incredible.
Thanks for sharing that. The only comment that I have this evening is I just wanted to point out to you an email that you should have received from OSBA. So if you haven't contributed to this survey already, I would highly suggest you do. So I got an email from Pat Bruns, who's our elected State Board of Education member. And there is a survey that the State Board of Education has put out where we can go in and take it to weigh in on what qualities we think the next Ohio Superintendent, State Board of Education Superintendent should be. So I think it's a unique opportunity to give your feedback and really, put in your 2 cents about what we think the next one should be. So I'd highly encourage you to do that.
Keep in mind, there's an interim there now.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say on that.
Are you saying what are the odds? Thank you, Superintendent Smith. Okay, I don't see anyone from the Teachers Association, correct? Anyone from OPSI? No? Okay. Board, is there a need for an executive session this evening? I don't believe so. Okay. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us all night. Thank you for your attendance, and we will adjourn at 8:12 p.m.
Very good. Very efficient.